So good afternoon, students. Today we will discuss on electromagnetic theory. Specifically, we will concentrate on electromagnetic induction. During the 18th century, it was commonly believed that electricity and magnetism are completely different phenomena, though the laws of electricity and magnetism have some similarity in between. The laws of electric and magnetic fields are well established theoretically as well as experimentally at the time. But electricity is electricity and magnetism is magnetism. There is no way you can connect them. That was the common belief at the time. But there are certain striking similarities between the electric and magnetic fields, such as the concept of flux, field lines, force expressions, the attractive and repulsive nature of the forces due to opposite and similar charges or poles, and many more. In fact, during 1890s, it was observed that a current carrying conductor can produce magnetic field. We have already learned about Gauss-Sever's law and Ampere's law. By the by those laws, even the magnitude and direction of magnetic field due to the current can be estimated at any point. Therefore, people started thinking that these two completely different phenomena somehow are linked with each other. But the wrong notion was not removed completely until Michael Faraday came. Michael Faraday, the greatest discovery by Sir Humphrey Davy, is regarded as one of the best experimentalists in this world. During one of his experiments, Faraday observed something new, something amazing and astonishing phenomena. As a magnet is moved relative to a coil, or a current carrying conductor is moved towards or away from a magnet, a current is observed to flow within the coil. If we observe this animation, whenever there is a relative motion between the magnet and this closed coil, a current is observed in the attached galvanometer. So what we observe in this animation, that if there is relative motion between the magnet and the closed coil, here the magnet is moved and the coil is stationary. You can do the opposite thing. That means the magnet is fixed and you can move the coil relative to that magnet. In both the cases, an EMF is induced in the coil. And if the circuit is closed, a current is observed, like in this situation, which we can observe through a galvanometer or an ammeter. Even if the cross-section area of the coil is changed, either you can increase or decrease the cross-section area, the current is induced in the coil. Think that we have a coil like this and the coil is closed with a galvanometer or ammeter attached to it. Now, if we can increase this area, cross-section area of the coil, that means instead of this, if you can increase the cross-section area of the coil like this, though it is difficult to increase during the motion, but still, during the process, if you can increase the cross-section area of the coil, then also you can observe there is a change in the current. Momentarily, you can observe a current flowing through the circuit. So whether you are um, you have a relative motion between the coil and the magnet, or you are increasing or decreasing the cross-section area of the coil, in both the cases, an EMF and hence current is induced in the coil only when there is a relative motion or there is a change in the area. As soon as there is no change in the cross-section area, that means you are not changing the cross-section area, you are not increasing or decreasing the cross-section area, or there is no relative motion between the magnet and the coil. That means you are not moving the magnet relative to the coil, or you are not moving the coil relative to the magnet. If you are not doing those things, then there is no EMF or current in the circuit. So as soon as there is no change, the EMF and hence the current cease to exist. From the concept of field lines, we know that magnetic flux can be defined as the number of magnetic fields or magnetic field lines passing through an area when the area is held perpendicular to the lines. That means if we consider a small area, say this is our area, and this area is held perpendicular to the field lines. Now, if we can measure the number of lines passing through this area, then that is a measure of magnetic flux. So, how we can define magnetic flux? Magnetic flux is the number of magnetic field lines passing through an area when the area is held normal or perpendicular to the lines. So, that's how we can define the magnetic flux, phi B say. So, we have two types of flux. One is the electric flux and the other is the magnetic flux. They can be defined in the similar way. So here magnetic flux we are considering. Magnetic flux is the number of magnetic lines of induction passing through an area when the area is held perpendicular to the lines. Now, if we can increase this area, so this is the cross-section area we have placed. If we can increase this area, or if we can decrease the area, like if we can increase the area like this. If we can increase the area, hopefully you understand the number of lines passing through the area will be increased. Similarly, if we can decrease the cross-section area, then the number of lines passing through this area will be decreased. That means the flux is changing whenever you are changing the cross-section area. So in this situation, we are changing the cross-section area of the coil. So if the cross-section area of the coil is changed, magnet is held stationary and only the cross-section area of the coil is changed. In that situation, the number of lines of induction passing through the area will be changed. As a result, flux will be changed. The flux will be changed. Similarly, suppose initially this is the position of the coil. Now, if you move the coil towards the magnet, then more and more number of lines will pass through it. If we move the coil towards the magnet, then more and more number of lines will pass through the coil. That means flux will be increased. Similarly, if we can move the coil away from the magnet, then less and less number of lines will pass through the coil. That means flux will be decreased. Or if we can place the coil stationary and move the magnet. So same thing, same situation will occur. If say this is the North Pole, so when the North Pole is moved very close to the coil, then more number of lines of induction will pass through the coil. Whereas if the magnet is held away from the coil, then less number of lines will pass through the coil. So in either way, flux will be changed. So what we have observed that if we have a relative motion between the magnet and the coil, then ultimately flux through the coil is changing. That is, number of lines passing through that coil is actually changing. Similarly, if we can increase or decrease, that means if we can change the cross-section area of the coil, then again number of lines passing through that coil is changing. That means flux is changing. So this changing flux is actually responsible for the induction of EMF and hence current in the coil. So it is the changing flux which is actually responsible for the induction of EMF or current in the circuit. And this is why when a magnet is moved towards the coil, like the first case, we are moving a magnet towards the coil. So this is your coil, this is the coil. If we move the magnet towards the coil, the flux increases, the number of lines passing through the coil increases. And when the magnet is moved away from the coil. Here the magnet is moved away from the coil, and you are observing we are using same pole in both the cases. We are using north pole. The first case, north pole is moved towards the coil, and momentarily you observe a current as shown in this galvanometer. And we can observe that this current exists only when there is a relative motion. Similarly here, when the magnet is moved away from the coil, again momentarily there is a current in the circuit which is observed through this galvanometer, but the direction of current is opposite. You observe the direction of current is opposite in these two cases. When the magnet is moved towards the coil or when the magnet is moved away from the coil, in both situations we are getting some current, but the direction of current is different. But if we held our magnet stationary with respect to the coil, that means there is no relative motion. There is no relative motion between the magnet and the coil. There is no motion here. So in this situation, there is no current in the circuit. In this situation, there is no current in the circuit. Current is zero as shown in this galvanometer. That means there is no EMF or current induced. So again, the induced EMF or current depends on this change in flux. Unless there is a change in flux, you cannot have any induced EMF in the circuit. Therefore, in short, Michael Faraday discovered that whenever the number of lines of induction or magnetic flux passing through a circuit changes, an EMF is induced in the circuit. If the circuit is closed, a current flows through it. The EMF and current thus produced are called induced EMF and induced current, and last only when the magnetic flux is changing. This phenomena is called electromagnetic induction. This phenomenon is called electromagnetic induction. When the EMF is induced in the circuit due to change in flux. Since changing flux is the most important aspect in this phenomena, the flux through a circuit can be changed in a number of ways, like moving the magnet relative to the circuit, which we have already discussed. That means you have a circuit and you have a magnet. Say this is north pole, this is the south pole of the magnet. So either you can move the magnet towards the coil or away from the coil, there will be relative motion, or you can move the coil towards the magnet or away from it, or you can move both. But the point is there must be a relative motion. There must be a relative motion between the magnet and the coil. Then only flux will be changed. And if there is change in flux, we can get EMF in the circuit. Now, from your class 12 physics knowledge, you already know that whenever current flows through a circuit, whenever current flows through a conductor, a magnetic field is generated around it. So magnetic field can also be produced by flowing current through a conductor. So instead of a magnet, instead of this magnet, if we place another coil through which current flows, that means now instead of the magnet, I have a coil with a battery. So now we have a battery, and due to this battery, a current flows through the circuit. So there is a current flows through the circuit. Now, if there is a relative motion, between this current carrying conductor and the closed circuit, the coil, normal coil, then also magnetic field is produced and magnetic field can be changed. That means flux can be changed and we can get induced EMF. Next thing, what we can do? Same situation as before. That means we have our closed coil and we need a magnetic field, and this magnetic field can be produced through a normal magnet or through a conductor. Here again we are using a current carrying conductor like this, Now both are fixed. There is no relative motion in between them. There is no relative motion between these two coils. Rather, what we can do, this battery supplies some current. This battery supplies some current in this circuit. Say I'm saying this is primary circuit, this is secondary circuit. For our understanding, I am saying this is primary circuit, this is the secondary circuit. And current flows through the primary circuit because of presence of a battery connected to it. So whenever current flows through this circuit and magnetic field is generated around it, but a particular number of lines of force is actually passing through this coil. A particular number of lines of force is actually passing through this coil. That means there is a particular amount of flux linked with the secondary circuit is. Flux is not changing, so we will not get any current. Flux is not changing, flux is fixed. Magnetic field is generated, all right. And some of this magnetic field is passing through this coil, secondary coil, yes. That's also correct. But that number of lines is not changing. Flux is not changing. And unless flux is changing, you cannot get induced EMF in the secondary coil. So how we can change the flux? That's what we are talking here. We can change the current in the primary circuit. So here what we are doing, this battery, the battery voltage can be changed. That means EMF of the battery can be changed. Suppose now I am changing the battery voltage from 1 volt to 10 volt. With the help of a rheostat, I am changing the voltage or EMF of the battery. That means current passing through the primary coil is actually changing. So current, if the current changes, magnetic field also changes. That means flux passing through the secondary coil will also change. Induced EMF will be produced. This phenomenon is called mutual induction, which we have also learned in class 12. Even instead of using primary coil, we can have the secondary coil only. That means we have only one coil, and within this coil we have a battery and galvanometer connected, and you can change the current linked with this primary coil only. That means I have only one coil. Now the current passing through this coil can be changed, and as a result, flux linked with this circuit will be changed, and EMF will be induced due to change in flux. That is called self-induction process. So by self-induction, you can also produce induced EMF. Or within a magnetic field, you can just rotate a coil, and by that, you can produce magnetic field. You can produce the change in flux, and as a result, EMF will be induced. So these are the different ways by which we can change the magnetic flux, because our objective is to change the magnetic flux. Unless magnetic flux is changed, the EMF will not be induced. Now, the magnitude and direction of the induced current and hence the induced EMF can also be estimated. The magnitude and direction of the induced EMF and induced current can also be estimated. Faster will be the change in flux, more will be the EMF. Faster will be the change in flux, more will be the EMF, and hence more will be the current in the circuit. On the other hand, the direction of the EMF or the induced current depends on whether the magnet is moved towards or away from the coil, and also on the magnetic pole nearest to the point. We will understand it. In the given figure, we observe that the first one, we observe if the north pole of the magnet is moved towards the coil. Here the north pole of the magnet is moved towards the coil. Current is induced momentarily as long as the magnet is moving. Because we know that if there is a relative motion between the magnet and the coil, then only flux changes. And induced EMF depends on the change in flux. If there is no change in flux, there is no EMF. Faster will be the change in flux, more will be the amount of EMF, and hence more will be the amount of current. Apart from that, you observe that the current flowing through the circuit is now anti-clockwise. This is the direction of current flow. This is the direction of current flow. So current is anti-clockwise here. When the north pole of the magnet is moved towards the coil. Okay. On the other hand, if the same north pole is moved away from the coil, if the same north pole is moved away from the coil, this figure, this one, if the same north pole is now moved away from the coil, then again momentarily we get an EMF and hence current in the circuit. But now the direction of the current is reversed. You observe the direction of the current is now reversed. It is now clockwise. The current flowing through the circuit is now clockwise. So what we have done, we have only changed the movement of the north pole. In the previous case, north pole was moved towards the coil. Now the north pole is moved away from the coil. And we observe the current is reversed due to this process. Similarly, if we do the same with the south pole, that means if we move the south pole towards the coil, the last figure, if the south pole is moved towards the coil, then we observe the current flowing is clockwise. On the other hand, if the south pole is moved away from it, the current is reversed. All these observations are given by Faraday's law of electromagnetic induction. All these observations we have talked about are given by Faraday's law of electromagnetic induction. The first one, which tells us the magnitude of the EMF produced, is called Newman's law. First law of Faraday or Newman's law, which states that when the magnetic flux through a circuit is changing, an EMF is set up, whose magnitude at any instant is equal to negative rate of change of magnetic flux. So, according to this law, the EMF which is produced or induced in the circuit depends on the rate of change of magnetic flux. This depends on the rate of change of magnetic flux. Please note that induced EMF doesn't depend directly on the flux. It is not explicitly depend on the flux, but it depends on the rate of change of flux. That is why when the magnet is held stationary with respect to the coil, there was no EMF induced. Therefore, you may have a large amount of flux. But if the change in flux is very small, the magnitude of the EMF will not be large enough. On the other hand, by changing a small amount of flux rapidly, you may produce a large amount of EMF because it depends on the rate of change. More will be the speed. More will be the speed of motion. More will be the changing flux. And more will be the current induced. So it doesn't depend on the amount of flux. It depends on how fast the flux is changing. So EMF, the magnitude of the EMF and hence magnitude of the current in the circuit depends how fast the flux can be changed. That's why I'm saying that if you may have a small amount of flux, but if you can change the flux very rapidly, then you may have a larger amount of EMF. The direction of the EMF or the current is given by Lenz's law. The direction of the EMF or the current is given by Lenz's law. According to this law, the direction of the induced EMF or current is such as to oppose the cause that produced it. This negative sign here symbolizes that the EMF or current thus produced will flow in such a direction that it will oppose the cause that produced it. The reason due to which it is produced, it will oppose that. If we look into Lenz law more specifically, so this is our induced EMF dt of phi b tells us the rate of change of flux, and this negative symbol tells us that the EMF oppose the cause that produced it. Let's understand it. Suppose south pole of a magnet, the south pole of a magnet, the first one, the south pole of a magnet is moved towards the coil. So according to Newman's law, faster will be the movement, more amount of EMF you can get. If there is no change in flux, that means if there is no relative motion between the magnet and this coil, if there is no relative motion between this magnet and the coil, then there is no change in flux, EMF induced will be zero. So when the south pole is moved towards the coil, like the first situation, the south pole is moved towards the coil, then momentarily current flows, which we can observe through the attached galvanometer. More would be the movement, more amount of EMF, more amount of current will be obtained. Newman's law. Now, what is the direction of the EMF, or what is the direction of current which flows in the closed circuit? This is our closed circuit. What is the direction of the coil? Direction of the current. Now, according to Lenz law, the direction of current will be such as to oppose the cause that produces it. Why this current is produced? The reason is the movement of the south pole towards the coil. The south pole is moved towards this coil, and that's why the induced EMF or induced current is produced. So current is induced due to movement of the south pole towards the coil. It is due to the movement of the south pole towards the coil. So according to Lenz law, it will oppose that movement. So it will oppose the movement of the south pole towards the coil. How can it oppose? So the current will flow in such a direction that the near face, this is the near face, nearer to the magnet, this end will act as a south pole. That means the current will flow clockwise. So current will flow in clockwise direction. This will be the direction of current flow. And due to this direction of current, the near end, that means this end, acts as a magnetic south pole. Now there will be repulsion between these two poles. There will be repulsion between the two poles. One pole, which is this pole, that is the nearer end, and other is the pole of the magnet. So there will be repulsion between these two poles, and you have to do some work against this repulsive force. There is a repulsion. So if you want to continue the process, that means if you want to move the south pole towards the coil again, then you need to do some work. So you are now working against a force. So according to Lenz law, the current is flowing in such a way that it opposes the cause that produces it. Now think of the opposite situation. In the second case, the south pole is moved away from the coil. Now the south pole is moved away from the coil, and due to that motion, a current is momentarily produced. You observe there is a current as measured by this galvanometer. Then the current will flow in such a way that it will oppose the cause that produced it. What is the cause? Cause is the movement of the south pole away from the coil. Now the cause, the reason of this current flow is the movement of the south pole away from the coil. So it will oppose that movement. That means now the current will flow. Now the current will flow in anti-clockwise direction. The current will flow anti-clockwise direction, such that the near end will act as a north pole. The near end will act as a magnetic north pole. Now there will be attraction between the two poles, north and south. So if you still want to move the south pole away from the coil, you need to do some work. Now you need to do some work. So in both cases, you observe, due to Lenz's law, there is a force acting against you, and you need to do some work against that force. So in either case, work has to be done in moving the magnet, and it is this mechanical energy which appears as electrical energy in the coil. Thus, production of the induced current or the induced EMF is in accordance with the law of conservation of energy. Therefore, the electrical energy in the form of EMF has not been created from nowhere. That will be the violation of conservation of energy. It is the energy you have supplied in the form of mechanical energy by doing some work. In both the situations, this energy is actually supplied by you, because it is you who is doing some work against either the repulsive force or against the attractive force. In the first case, you are doing some work. In the first case, you are doing some work against the repulsive force when you move the south pole of the magnet towards the coil. And in the second case, again you are doing some work when you try to move the south pole away from that coil. So in both the cases, you are doing some work, and that work, what you have done, is actually stored as electrical energy in the form of EMF.